Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jade, and today I am going to recommend you 15 books that you can read over this next month of quarantine. Because I know we for sure are quarantined for the month of April, and we don't know about May yet, but it looks possible that we're going to be quarantined for part of May. So we have a lot of time on our hands, and that means a lot of reading can get done. I have 15 books for you guys, and I organized them kind of on like type of book slash feeling that they give you. So I'm gonna start with my, oh, I'm hungry, less serious books first. So these are books that you can read if you're like looking for a fun time. One of them is middle grade. One of them like is kind of middle grade. I wanted to include those options because those are really fast, fun reads that can honestly be a great time. I really love middle grade books. The first one I actually have for middle grade books is The School of Good and Evil. This is the first book. It's like a 5-book series right now, and it's just like a really fun, fast read. Basically, there's in the town that these two girls live in, I don't know if it's every year or every certain amount of time, 2 people are picked to go to the school for good and evil, where they will learn how to be good or learn how to be evil, so that someday when their fairy tale is written, they can do it well. Like it's like a competition between who can win and who won't win. And good and evil used to be tied. Sometimes the evil people would win, sometimes the good would win, until there was like this huge war between good and evil, and one like the evil headmaster was killed or something like that. So you get thrust into this really cool school that is really separate. But more than that, the main characters both think that they're in the wrong area. The super pretty, popular, cares about her appearance and everything girl ends up in the place for evil, and all she wears is like pink and stuff, and the girl who looks and acts like a witch and wears black is in the school for good. So they were best friends, and there's like some trouble that they have because of the feelings that they both like are in the wrong place and that they took the other one's place. But it's really good. I love this book. I don't know, it was just, I listened to the first one on audiobook. I think I've read the first 2, I think I've only listened to the audiobook, and I really loved it. So that's also an option. If you guys don't like reading physical books, by the way, I want to recommend using Scribd. It's $9.99 a month, which is already $5 less than Audible, and you get more books from it. That's what I use. They did limit it. They didn't used to have a limit, but so for audiobook you get 1 free book and then 2 free audio originals. For this, you have access to any book that they have on the site, and they have a lot. They probably have every book that I'm mentioning here on their site available for audio or for text read if you like that too. And you can usually read like 3, 4, 5 good books before they'll like slowly start taking away like the newest releases, but there's always still more options for you because they always have like all the classics and stuff like that available, and they have just like certain books available at all times, even if you've already listened to a bunch. That's how I used to do like huge amount of books read in a month. I used to read like 11 audiobooks in a month before they put the cap on. Kind of sad about it, but I still think it's better than Audible. So that's an option for any of these books if you want to listen to them. The next book, also free trials, 1 month free trial. Do that and do a 1 month free trial of Audible, and you'll have a bunch of books you can read. The next book I have is The Hidden Oracle, or The Hidden Oracle, The Trials of Apollo book by Rick Riordan. This is a continuation from the Percy Jackson series and then also from the Lost Hero series. So this is after the Titan War and the Giant War. And I really want people to keep reading this series because I think that it honestly is getting better with every book, because his books are a little bit more adult now. They're not for 12-year-olds like the first Percy Jackson books. They're like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Like they're a little bit older, so it's easier to relate. And this is so cool because it brings together new characters and old characters, and you never know who you're gonna get because it could be from any of the previous books. And I really love that. I think this series is amazing. I read all 4 of them, and a lot of stuff happens that is really upsetting but also really amazing, and I really want people to read this. Basically, this book is about, after the giant war, Apollo gets sent down to the to Earth as a human with no godly powers as punishment, that Zeus thinks that he like played a role in what happened between the Romans and Greeks because his son Octavian. So he has to go on a quest to free the 5 oracles, because all of the oracles, the Oracle of Delphi and like all these ancient kinds of oracles that were in Greek mythology that I really didn't know any of them besides Delphi, have been captured by a new enemy. Well, a new old enemy come back. And he has to free them with no powers, and he is owned because he also has like a slave contract, so the first person that like met him got to control him, and it's a 12-year-old named Meg who's really spunky and cute, and I love, and she got like anger issues and it's perfect, and he's like a full of himself asshole, and you slowly see him throughout the books realize what it means to be human, and it really changes his outlook. So those are 2 fun reads. Another fun read, this is my favorite fun read I've ever read. This is Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Cardinger. This is about a girl who ends up going to a finishing school where you learn how to, like, the finishing school things of how to be a lady, but you also learn how to be a spy. So she gets to go to this really cool school and learn how to be a spy, but at the same time she's involved in like this higher plot, because when she was going to the school, they get hijacked by highwaymen because they're looking for something, and so she kind of gets dragged into that plot as well, and that plot actually goes throughout the entire series. It's a 4-book series, and I just really love it. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I've slowly collected all of the books. I'm about to get the only book I'm missing, which is the 2nd book in a book order I just made, and it's exciting. But I really, really recommend. It's so much fun. It's steampunk, Victorian, which is really cool too, and I haven't seen that. I haven't read a lot of books like that, and I really enjoyed that aspect. It was really, really fun and cool. Highly recommend. The next book I have is also, if you're just looking for like a fun, really cool school and a mystery, and it's Truly Devious by Marianne Johnson. I'm sure you've heard of like all these books, but this book is just a really good time with really fun characters, and when I read it, I felt, sometimes when I read a book, they give me like a bright atmosphere and it makes me really happy, and this is one of those books for me. The main character, what's her name? Is it Stevie? What is the main character's name? Stevie. She ends up getting accepted into this really prestigious school, which is for kids that are just really smart in a specific area that normal high school doesn't help with. So like there's robotics kids, actors, dancers, just like everything. And the main character actually gets accepted for being a detective because she wrote in her essay how she wants to solve this huge case that happened to the school. The man who founded the school was a really eccentric billionaire, and his wife and child were kidnapped, and he's never been able to find his child, and there's like a huge reward for anyone that can, and it's just been a huge mystery. So she's like learning from this new school, but also trying to complete this mystery because that actually is why she's there. So it is kind of like a fun job for her, and like I loved it. There's like so many cool people, so much crazy things. I low-key kind of want to reread it, but I want to reread too many books right now. This one is like my different category for you guys in case you're wanting something a little different. This is Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. This is a non-fiction book that talks about the Chicago World's Fair, because that was a huge thing that happened for America. It made Chicago into the town it is, because like it was a choice between New York and Chicago, and it's a huge deal that Chicago was picked. But at the same time this is happening, and we're like learning about all the architects. This is huge like architecture thing. It can get a little slow and boring at times, but you got to keep going, because the second thing this book talks about and intertwines is H.H. Holmes, the serial killer who built that really cool hotel in Chicago and killed a bunch of people in his hotel. It's about him because he used the World's Fair as a reason to turn his building he owned into a hotel to get new victims. And we have no idea how many people he killed because he got rid of their bodies with what's it called? Well, the thing that dissolves bodies, like some sort of thing. So you get to see the story of how he became what he was, how he evolved as a person and a killer. And you get to learn about the fair and how it ended up being made, and it was super amazing that they did it, because it should have been impossible, all the things they did. It took me a long time to read it, but I'm so glad I did read this book, because of the fact that it made me start loving nonfiction, and I really like nonfiction books now. I very much enjoy reading them a lot, and this one inspired that, so highly recommend. All right, let's go into like next thing. These are, I had to mention this because if you want to pick up a book you won't be able to put down and you'll like love, you've read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's really good. It's just like a fun, it brings you to a different time period very well. So if you are looking for like an escape, this is cool because it's a completely different time period, and it's one of my favorite time periods because it's like throughout the early 1900s and like the roaring 20s and 30s and 40s and everything. This is about a girl named Evelyn Hugo. She's like one of the most famous people in the world, and she never told the story of her life, and she's finally letting someone write a biography of her life, and that's what this book is. It's fiction, but it feels like it's real. And you learn about her life through her 7 husbands, because she's very well known also for the fact that she had 7 husbands, and you learn about each one and why she was with them, and like a lot of it is like scheming. A lot of it, the reason she got to where she was today is because of these husbands, and like it's really cool. It's a very good book. I love it. I think I read it all at one sitting. The next book I have is for like if you want a mystical, beautifully written book that's like kind of confusing, but you don't care because it's so beautiful and well written that you just keep going. I'd recommend The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I'm getting hungry. It's like 1 and I haven't eaten yet. That's my bad. But this book is about a guy, who when he was a kid, saw this door like painted on to a wall, and it just looked so real and beautiful, and he had this feeling that if he opened it, it would open. Like if he turned the chalk handle, it would open. And he made the conscious decision not to. And it starts off with him, like he's in his last years of college and graduate school, and he picks up a book from the library. And in the book is a story of him deciding not to open that door. And the rest of the book is like other stories of people who went to the world he never did. So he wants to find a way to refine this world, and he gets involved in this mystery, and it's a lot more dangerous than he thought, and it's just so good. It's not a way you normally see a book written, and that's why I appreciate it, because it's just about being this like beautiful world that draws you in, and like this crazy like destined quest and all that stuff, and it's so whimsical and things like that. But it's not like, I feel like it's not like we go here and this happens and like maybe this person dies. It's like too whimsical to be a normal novel, if that makes sense. So it just gives you the feels. It gives you like all of the like, this is cool. The next book I have is just like another like weird, cool book that like kind of was written mystically to me when I read it. And that's The Sahil Girls by Claire Legrand. This is about a girl who newly moves to like this island town, super small town. It's from the perspective of 3 people. So Marin's the new girl, and her someone in her family I think just died, and that's why they moved there. And then there's Zoe, who is like completely cut out, like she's like the outcast of the town, and she keeps like having her, basically her friend disappeared, and there's like a whole complex story with that, and like she's dealing with that and trying to discover what really happened. And then there's Val, who's the queen bee of this town, who's super involved in like the disappearances, like she was best friend with this girl that disappeared, and then she disappeared, and it's like just kind of like strange. And there is an actual monster in this book, and I don't think I've read a lot of books, or there are a lot of books with just a pure scary monster. The Devouring Grey I just read and also really loved. So if you like this book and you kind of want to read another one like it, The Devouring Grey by, what's it by? I don't know who it's by. It's The Devouring Grey. It's a good book. It's like there's a cool atmosphere to the island. It's an island that's like beautiful but like always misty and gray, and then there's like a lot of horses because it's like the island where like the best horses are bred. Oh, really good. Highly recommend. The next book I have to mention because I think it's a great book for everyone and also for people who don't read. So if you have someone in your life who's bored right now and has a hard time reading a normal book, maybe because they have ADHD or something, Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff is perfect because it's a multimedia format. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but it's a multimedia format, so it's not a normal book, and it's interesting, and there's always action happening, so I think it's a lot easier to read for someone who has like ADHD or something. And it's a like action-packed sci-fi novel, and it's kind of like reading a really good action movie, so I think that also helps. But basically this is a book about a mining planet that the main characters live on, and all of a sudden they're attacked and someone's trying to kill them all on their planet. So only 2 huge ships of people escape, and the main characters are on the 2 different ships. They actually are ex-girlfriend and boyfriend. They just broke up. So it's like kind of that situation, but they're trying to, like, they're in contact with each other, trying to figure out why this happened, what's going on, and it gets intense because it's just intense. I don't know how much the inside flat tells you, so I don't want to like. There's also a really cool AI system that's super important in the book. It does mention this in here. And also the future name of my son is based off of this book because I love the name Ezra, and that's the future name of my son. Determined already. The next book I have is a book I haven't read in a long time, but I wanted to mention because it is important to me. And that's Therithmatist by Brandon Sanderson. I really want him to continue the series, but I don't really know if he has much plans to because he's in the middle of so many other series that are more popular. But I love this book. This is about a world that there are these 2D chalk monsters that like can go on the ground, and they like can move up walls and shit. They can climb on anything, but they're 2D chalk monsters that will kill you and devour you. And there's specific people, like you go through this test to see if you can be a Therithmatist, which is someone who also can use chalk to fight these monsters. So they like make fancy chalk circles and like can cast out their own kind of chalk monsters to kill like these wild monsters. It's basically like America, but it's all the states have been split into their own island. It's kind of cool. I think there's a map of it. There is on the inside cover. It's like this. But the main character, his father was a really famous chalk maker, so he gets to go to this super prestigious school. Even though he is not a Therithmatist, he can't do these things, and he actually never went through the trial, so he doesn't really know. But he ends up, people start to get killed by these wild chalk monsters, so there's like a mystery afoot, there's something going on, and he somehow gets involved in it. The students start disappearing. That's why people are being kidnapped from their rooms at night, and so it's like he gets involved in it, and it's just really cool because if you ever read anything like that, no, I bet you haven't. This is a completely original story, which is why it's good. That's why Brandon Sanderson's good. This book's the reason I love him, and I've read all of his other books. Not yet, but working on it. Is because he makes worlds like no one else does. None of his worlds I've ever seen a book similar to. Okay, now we're getting to the best part. So, first things first, I want you guys to read this book. Just read it to get it over with and like throw it away, and then start the second book and the third and the novella, because I love the rest of the series, but I never liked the first book. I felt like the first book was weird. I thought the first book was like two completely separate books. That's how I felt about it. It just felt like two separate books, and I never really enjoyed it. And low-key, I know I'm gonna hate it when I reread it, because I hate the male protagonist in this book. I think he's a little bit of a cuck. I mean, a jerk. I suppose I shouldn't say that word on the internet. That's just the word I use. I'm sorry. I don't like the mate. He's mean. I don't like him. But then I can't even. This book is so good. And you know why it's good? Because it takes. That's spoiling. I want to have a discussion about this book series, because there's some things I think were really cool with this book series. And I'm just gonna say this, which is not really a spoiler because there's no context at all. But in the second and third books of the series, and also in the next book by her I'm going to recommend, there is representation for PTSD. And I actually think that it's done really well, and it makes sense because the shit that she goes through in this book is not okay. What happens to her is not okay. So it makes sense, and it gets better. It's okay. But basically, this is a girl who is trying to provide for her family. They used to be nobles, and then their dad had a bunch of debts he didn't pay off, and like they are living in this small shack, and their dad doesn't do anything because he's super depressed, so she's the only one providing for people. So she illegally poaches in the woods, which you're not supposed to do, and she ends up killing a wolf one day. And then there is a huge wall that's a barrier between the humans and the Fae, because the Fae used to just murder humans a lot, so they eventually put up this huge wall. And that wolf she killed turns out to have been a Fae, so the Autumn King, or not the Autumn King, that's the wrong book, the Autumn Prince comes over and as punishment steals her away to his castle. It's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I love when people say that because that's just like funny, because the series continues and that's not what it is, but the first one, that's kind of what it is. And so she's like learning to live in this life, and then stuff happens that feels like a separate book, but it's fine. This is all that matters. If you're gonna read a book, this is my new favorite book of all time. How long am I recording for? Okay, good. I thought this was 33 minutes. I was like, oh my god. This is my favorite book of all time. I just finished it last night. I'm editing a reading vlog that involves me literally crying and like a mess, but funny. The first 40 pages, I was like iffy about this book because this is a high fantasy novel. And I actually haven't read a book like this before. But then once you get used to it, you're just sucked in and you can't stop. And that's what she's good at. That's what Sarah J. Maas is good at. And that's why I put her on this list and put 2 of her book series on this list. This is the first book. There's nothing else. But like this is a series I want you to read all of, because her books take up your mind and draw you away from anything going around you. And I think they're a really good escape, and they're really good at making you fall in love with the characters and feeling so much emotion. And page 86 of this book, that's all I have to say. But please read it. It's I don't even want to like describe it. I just want you to read it. But basically it's like if New York, which is why I thought this was cool, because I've never read a book like this either. It's like it's an urban city. She lives in basically New York, except if magic also existed with science, and then it was controlled by angels, and like the police force is werewolves, and like everything exists there as well. So it's cool. And the main character is a half fae, half human. And this book really makes you feel that it's going in one direction. And it doesn't. And I'm still not okay about that. But basically, Bryce gets involved in this mystery to find this ancient fae artifact that was stolen. And it has to do with her best friend. Oh my god, don't read the inside cover. It gave a... Just go into this book not knowing a lot. Don't read the inside cover. I didn't, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and that was so much better for me. But literally it tells you right away the big twist that broke my heart on page 86. So don't read the inside cover, but just read it. just know that it's a Sarah J. Maas book and you should read it. I'm gonna go a little faster for the last 3 books because I'm talking for so much. I have The Hunger Games by Susan Collins because you know what? We all love this book for a reason. I reread this book recently and I'm so glad I did. It made me realize again how amazing this book is. Katniss as a character is so different from anything I've ever read because she's literally just like if loyalty was a person, that's Katniss. She's just loyal. But that's something to admire, and it's not something to be like she has no personality. She does, but her loyalty drives her so much for people, and her like need to survive, that's why she does everything she does. And I just really appreciate her as a character, and this world is so cool. And I could reread this again right now and I wouldn't be mad. I've read this 9 or 10 times my entire life. Okay, actually I think I've read it 9 times. And I would literally reread it right now and have just as much fun as the first time I've read it. And that's not something there's no other book like this. There really isn't. No other book will make me feel like this. I hate the 3rd one and I'll never reread it, but I'll reread the first 2. Then I have Nevernight by J. Kristoff. Because if you are in the mood for a fantasy novel, this is what you should go for because it's like the best. This is an assassin who goes to an assassin school. Like, what else do you need if you love fantasy? And if you want me to sweeten the deal, it has these footnotes at the bottom, which I actually effing love because they're literally hilarious and I don't feel like they take you out of the novel at all. They really just expand on what you're reading, so it doesn't bother me that they're there. I love them. They're so funny. There's so many funny ones. There's one about the sand kraken that I just love. So, I don't know. I could give it more of a description, but I think this is just a book that if you love fantasy, you will read. And that's why everyone's reading it, because it is a great fantasy novel. I'm gonna continue with the second one soon, I swear to God. And then the last book I have, if you're looking for a big chunker book, a big chunky book, The Defendants by Libba Bray is for you. Also, really good fantasy, but in the 1920s, which is really fun atmosphere. So if you're also looking for a way to escape from your situation right now, this is a different time period you will be brought into. With so much cool stuff. So not only is it cool because I've never seen a better written book about the 1920s. Libba Bray you can tell how much research she did to making her book make sense for the 1920s. So not only is it perfectly like that for all aspects, I feel like there's this huge mystery going on. There's these occult murders happening that she gets involved in because she ends up going to New York and her uncle runs this occult shop or museum, occult museum. So he gets called in to help with these murders because they're occult. And occult, not a cult. It's not a cult. There's an ancient evil. There's a bunch of people who like weirdly have these different kind of abilities. The main character can touch objects and see memories associated with them, which kind of gets her in a lot of trouble, which is how she ends up in New York. And you kind of learn about a lot of other really, really cool characters that are all from super different aspects of like social situations and what's going on in their lives of the 1920s that like make sense, which is I just love how well this is at being a different time period. Highly recommend. Big fat book, but you know what, we got the time. And that's my 15 books I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry it's so long, but you know what, I wanted to give you so many options and kind of explain why they're options. I picked all of these books because they're good at taking you someplace else and you will want to keep reading. And I think that's perfect for what a lot of people need right now. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave me a like down below. Tell me some books that you would recommend people read during this time. Maybe I'll pick some of them up. I'm trying to read a lot. But I love you all so very much. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye-bye!